Fuson to call the meeting to order. And if you would, please remain standing for the pledge led by Commissioner Charlie Keene and our invocation by Commissioner Joe Creek.
All rise. Oh yes, this Honorable Board of County Commissioners is now in session pursuant to adjournment. Now may God save this state and this Honorable Board of County Commissioners.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let us pray. Our Father and our God, we thank you for your love and your watch care. We thank you for this legislative body and they're willing to serve. We thank you how you blessed us through guidance, and as we have gone through the past, we ask for guidance for the future. It says in the Bible in Proverbs 3, 5, and 6, trust in the Lord with all thy heart, and do not lean upon your own understanding. And in all the ways acknowledge him, and he will make straight your paths. Just guide and direct us tonight, and let us respect one another when our views differ. For it's in Christ's name I pray. Amen.
Amen. Ms. Jackson, would you please read the roll?
You have 21 present and 0 absent.
Thank you, ma'am. Commissioners, we have several proclamations to read, but before our first proclamation, we have a presentation from all of our Rotary clubs here in Clarksville. So I'm going to turn the mic over to Mr. Mike Taliento. Mike, do you want to just say a few words?
Mayor, on behalf of the 3 Rotary clubs of Clarksville, we're proud and honored to present to the county another check in support of the Civitan expansion, specifically for the Field of Dreams. This check brings the total of contributions from the 3 Rotary clubs to over $550,000.
I didn't bring my glasses. All right, I know we have several people here, and I won't read all the names, but that served on the task force, the Clarksville Montgomery County Traffic Safety Task Force. If y'all would, all please come forward. I know y'all are here. Be a bad night to do something bad in the commission chambers with all this law enforcement in here. Not that it'd ever be a good night, but. I tell you what, instead of me just trying to read everybody's names that I'd probably booger up, why don't we start right here with you, Lisa, and if you would, just tell us your name and the agency that you're representing tonight.
I'm Lisa McLean, Montgomery County Driver Safety. I'm Jennifer Serbiak, Clarksville Police Department.
Dennis Bowles, Montgomery County Sheriff's Office.
Officer Cheryl Ramsey, Austin Key.
And Sherry, Tennessee Highway Patrol. Ed Baker, Montgomery County Emergency Manager. Bobby Ruger, Montgomery County Emergency Manager. Randy Hills, Clarksville Fire Rescue. Good.
Sheriff Murphy, District Attorney Office.
John Cotton, District Attorney. I'm Jimmy Brown, Montgomery County Sheriff's Office.
So let me read this proclamation. Whereas the Clarksville Montgomery County Traffic Safety Task Force, formed in September of 2017, is very basic in nature, but strives on common ideas and goals. And whereas the primary goal of the task force is to reduce traffic crashes and fatalities on the roads and highways in Clarksville, Montgomery County through education, enforcement, and engineering. And whereas the task force functions as a group absent of any form of title or rank within the group, each person or persons represent an agency that has responsibility within the county. And whereas the task force meets monthly to discuss upcoming events, brainstorms on traffic-related problems, and creates subgroups in the event of large-scale events. And whereas the task force researches crash trends on roads and highways, collaborates and conducts enforcement on problem roads, works with the DA's office and DUI team on repeat offender programs and habitual traffic offenders. They further work with Fort Campbell Military Police on training and events and implements educational traffic safety programs in the schools and the community. And whereas in 2018, the task force worked together to create 13 sobriety checkpoints, 26 bar checks resulting in 28 DUI arrests and 721 citations. Whereas agencies involved in the task force are the Tennessee Highway Patrol, Montgomery County Sheriff's Office, Clarksville Police Department, Fort Campbell Military Police, Austin Peay State University Police, Montgomery County Driver Safety, District Attorney's Office, Montgomery County EMS, Montgomery County EMA, and the Clarksville Fire and Rescue. Now, therefore, I, Jim Durrett, Mayor of Montgomery County, do hereby recognize the Clarksville-Montgomery County Safety Task Force and all agencies represented for joining together as a team to make the roads and highways of this community safer. To each and every one of you, thank you for what you do each and every day, and thanks for being a part of this task force. Along with the proclamation, we also have this plaque that we'd like to present. Thank y'all. Next, if I could have Nate Landwehr. Did I say that right? Yeah. That's good enough. If anybody acts bad, Nate's the guy I'm going to.
You just call me Nate the Train.
Nate the Train, how you doing, man? Ladies and gentlemen, I have a proclamation for y'all. Most of y'all may not know Nate, but I think once you hear the proclamation, you'll have a great appreciation for him. Whereas Nate Landwehr is a proud graduate of Rossview High School, where he played football and ran track. He later attended Highland Community College in Kansas. And whereas Nate returned home to Clarksville, Tennessee, taking a 9-to-5 job, but knew he was meant to do something different. One day, while going for a run, he passed by a mixed martial arts MMA gym and decided to stop in and check it out. It didn't take him long to know fighting was what he wanted to do. And whereas Nate had his first amateur fight a couple of weeks later and set his goal to become a pro fighter and world champion, after a few headliners for A&A Fight Promotions, he had an offer from M1 Global, one of the largest MMA promotions in the world. Whereas Nate committed to a 6-fight contract and pledged to become the first American featherweight champ of M1 in half the time. He accomplished that commitment. He recently defended his title on December 15 in Kazakhstan. You okay? And Nate is known to be one of the most exciting and talented fighters around, having huge knockout power, giving him the nickname of the Train. With one more win, Nate can move forward to the world's top promotion and become a world champion. Whereas Nate has a huge love for his hometown of Clarksville and is excited to tell everyone about it. With each fight being in a new city, a new region, he says, it's exciting. One man, one city, one country at a time. Everybody will know about Clarksville, Tennessee, and the Train. Now therefore, I, Jim Durrett, Mayor of Montgomery County, and on behalf of the citizens of this great community, do hereby applaud the outstanding achievements of Nate, AKA The Train, and his accomplishments of becoming the first American featherweight champ of M1. We know the title of world champion is in his very near future. Good luck, Nate. Congratulations, man. Okay, if I could have Mr. Richard Eskelson. Richard, I know you as Richard. I can't say your last name. Come on down. I actually was introduced to Richard probably a year and a half ago or so by Chief John Clement. I know Chief Clement's right here. Chief was working at Workforce Essentials at the time, and now he actually is working for Senator Blackburn. So, Richard, I have a proclamation for you. Whereas Richard, how you say your last name? Eskelson, a U.S. Army veteran, founded Commercial Installation LLC in 1999, a provider of craftsmanship quality installation of architectural openings for all types of building. Richard knew that employing veterans was going to be key to the long-term success of his new company. And whereas in order to grow the business, Richard focused on helping to keep veterans leaving active duty at Fort Campbell employed in the community. He did so by hiring, teaching, coaching, and constantly promoting them into key positions. And whereas one of those key positions was the hiring of John Shelton as Executive Vice President, who with his strong work ethic organizes and drives daily operation. John has put process improvements in place to direct the company towards its strategic goals. And whereas in 2017, Commercial Installation LLC participated in the Hire Our Heroes internship program at Fort Campbell. Richard knew the organizational skills, system knowledge, and leadership ability the soldiers acquired were excellent, and he wanted to inject those traits into Commercial Installations LLC. And whereas on November 8, 2018, the U.S. Department of Labor recognized Commercial Installation LLC as one of the recipients of the 2018 Hire Vets Medallion Program Demonstration Award. This award is the only federal level Veterans Employment Award that recognizes a company commitment to veterans hiring, retention, and professional development. Now therefore, I, Jim Durrett, Mayor of Montgomery County, and on behalf of the citizens of this great community, do hereby applaud Richard and Commercial Installations LLC for their commitment to employ, train, and promote local veterans. We congratulate you on being the recipient of the 2018 Hire Vets Medallion Program Demonstration Award. Keep up the great work. Richard, thank you, man. Mr. Pat Kennedy. Or Miss Pat Kennedy. How are you? Miss Pat, I have a proclamation I'd like to read to you. Whereas the Governor's Volunteer Stars Award is a statewide recognition program instituted by former Governor Phil Bredesen to honor and publicly recognize citizens from each county for their exemplary volunteer service to their community. And whereas Pat Kennedy has been awarded the honor as the 2018 Montgomery County Adult Recipient for her support, passion, and commitment to the youth of Montgomery County. And whereas Pat Kennedy has served as a Foster Review Board volunteer for the past 4 years since retiring from the Student Services Department of the Clarksville-Montgomery County School System, where she heard cases of children in the custody of State of Tennessee Department of Children's Services. And whereas Pat Kennedy has contributed over 5,200 hours of her time, volunteering 25 hours per week to alleviate some of the workload for the staff of the Montgomery County Youth Service Division of Juvenile Court. She has sorted paperwork, ran errands, cleaned, helped with displays for training and conferences, and volunteered for other miscellaneous work to support the department. Whereas Pat Kennedy arrives at work every day with a smile on her face and refuses to complain. She is an inspiration to the staff and others she serves, donates to every charitable cause the office has been a part of, often as the most generous giver. And whereas Pat Kennedy seeks no praise or recognition and quietly goes about her day doing all that needs to be done with great enthusiasm. She knows her commitment is worth it when she sees children reunited with their natural parents or adopted into their forever families. Juvenile Court admires and loves Pat, not only as a team member, but as a human being, as she is always assisting others, not for monetary gain, but just to give back to her community. Now, therefore, I, Jim Durrett, Mayor of Montgomery County, Tennessee, do hereby encourage all citizens to join me in recognizing Pat Kennedy for her dedication to the Montgomery County Youth Service Division of Juvenile Court. Her volunteer spirit serves as an inspiration to us all. Ms. Pat, thank you. Lastly, if I could have Bella Ren Sullivan. How are you this evening? Good. Bella, if you would, I'd like to read this proclamation for you. Whereas the Governor's Volunteer Star Awards is a statewide recognition program instituted by former Governor Phil Bredesen to honor and publicly recognize citizens from each county for their exemplary volunteer service to their community. And whereas Isabella Ren Sullivan has been awarded the honor as the 2018 Montgomery County Youth Recipient for her active volunteer experiences throughout Montgomery County. And whereas Bella has actively participated in Tennova Hospital's volunteer program for high school students for 2 consecutive summers, volunteering 80 hours of her time. And whereas Bella has served in the Clarksville High School Junior Civitan for 3 years, currently as a Valley District Officer, where she is involved in service projects such as campus and community park cleanups, boxing food for the needy, pet food drives for the Humane Society, bell ringing for the Salvation Army, food drive for the CHS Fuel Program, providing blessing bags with supplies for the homeless, and Thanksgiving cards to the Veterans Nursing Home. And whereas Bella is a member of the Robert Penn Warren Club and an ambassador for Lead United with Clarksville United Way, she organized a book drive for Monroe Carroll Jr. Children's Hospital at Vanderbilt Champs Holiday House event, where she raised enough money for 110 books to be donated to sick children and their siblings. She has also assisted with the United Way cookbook fundraiser, organized a food drive for Manna Cafe Ministries, and mentored children at Barksdale Elementary School through the Read United program. Whereas Bella was awarded the 2017 President's Service Award and the American Citizenship Award while holding high academic standards and becoming a National Merit Scholar, volunteering is a family tradition Bella gladly continues. Now, therefore, I, Jim Durrett, Mayor of Montgomery County, Tennessee, do hereby encourage all citizens to join me in recognizing Isabella Ren Sullivan for her volunteer work in Montgomery County. Her volunteer spirit, this in it, should be an inspiration to all teenagers as well as all of us. Bella, thank you. All right, Commissioners. Our first item of business is our approval of our January 14, 2019 minutes. Is there a motion for approval? Commissioner Ray, is there a second? Commissioner Beal, any discussion? If you would, please register your vote. Would anyone like to change their vote? Ms. Jackson, would you please tally the vote?
You have 21 yeses, 0 noes, 0 abstentions.
All right, Commissioners, I'm going to ask Mr. Nick Powell to come forward. Nick, I don't know how much detail our commissioners want. We do this quarterly to update all the commissioners on all the projects that we have going on in Montgomery County, and there's a bunch of them. I know they're all in your Dropbox. Nick, I don't know if you want to go through the highlights of each one of them, and then if there's questions at the end or however you want to do it, but the floor is yours.
Thank you. Good evening, Commissioners. If you've got your quarterly report where you can access it, then I'll go through some photo slides, and if you have questions along the way, just press your button. Mayor Durrett will prompt me. We can stop along the way and discuss. Again, my name is Nick Powell, I'm the county engineer. We go through all the projects and try to keep you updated the best we can on them. First project, and this is not going to be every project, but we'll go through a majority of the projects that we have active right now and kind of some of the exciting ones that we've got progress on. Court Center Phase 2 security. We went through this project. This was one of the mandates that the Tennessee Supreme Court brought in for the ballistic panels that are going to be in every courtroom for the court clerks. The first floor is an area we're going to remove the information desk and add a third lane. That project has been bid. We're ready for construction now. We've reviewed submittals on that, and that should be starting hopefully within the next 3 to 4 weeks. You'll see progress on that project. We will be moving some of the entrances and exits, so we'll keep all the departments aware of what's going on in the phasing throughout that project. Lafayette Road widening, we've been in right-of-way for a while on that project. Right now, the designers have completed the large tracks, relatively large tracks, for appraisals. We've got the assessor of property that's working on some small tracks for us. And Fort Campbell is currently working on their own review of the perpetual easements that they're going to be granting to us for that. And that's probably going to be at least a 5 to 6 month process. We've tried to help them speed that up the best that they can. It's just a process, and we're working through it the best we can with them. Our largest project probably that we have going on right now during construction is Civitan Phase 2. For those of you who are not fully familiar, I showed this last time. This is the image that the park has been designed based on. So when we click in, we've got some aerial views, and it'll kind of be in the same looking south toward the north. And you can see where the existing park is and where the proposed park, what all we've had completed and established. Off to the right-hand side of the image, you'll see the baseball fields kind of going in and taking shape. The large concrete area that you see kind of in the middle of the screen, that will be our ADA compliant Field of Dreams that was presented an additional check tonight. That's been a great addition to this park. The playground's going to be right next to that. It's going in well. The weather is certainly hampering some of the site grading operations that's going on, but this contractor's been really versed and has continued his project well throughout the winter and throughout very poor conditions really since October of last year. So moving in a little bit tighter into the site, you can see a little bit more of the detail. You can see some of the red structures, the pavilions that are going up, being framed up. You can see kind of some of the fields taking shape. We've got retaining walls throughout the site. You'll see the large arc radius on the upper northern field. That takes the shape of the ball field. Zooming in a little bit, this is the concession stand that is approximately 75% constructed. The interior work is still going on with that. Paint going on the outside. You can see the outskirts of the radius of the ADA ball field, some of the fence posts along and how that's being constructed and going in. Off to the right-hand side, this is more looking toward the quad area to the center of the ball fields and all the structures that are going up. We've pre-planned where everything was going to be, where the electrical, you just wouldn't believe what kind of underground electrical is on a site like this, and data, planning for future speakers. So the design team, the parks department, the engineering department, we all worked well throughout the design phase to make sure all this stuff was going in appropriately before we ever got to the design, or before we ever got to the construction phase. Just a representative sample of some of the retaining walls that are on the site, kind of how they lay in. It's very methodical. You've got certain utilities that are going to be back behind retaining walls. The retaining walls have to be in first to get your grade up to the proper elevation. A lot of details with stormwater, with electrical pole, Musco sports fields lighting. Moving to the western part of the site, you can kind of see more of where we're grading in the injection wells, which is stormwater drainage off to the left-hand side of the screen. Zooming on, the open-air pavilion, kind of seeing progress from that. And they've got pretty much the majority of that, probably about 90 to 95% of that dried in from a roof standpoint now. They'll be putting metal roofing on that. All that will get stained out, painted out in the future, so it's a nice, clean look. Another example, this is the multi-purpose field that has retaining walls. You can see the chain link fence going in to produce the barriers for the offset elevations, all the light poles that are going to be there, and the offset distance for the drainage. The back of the park, this is what backs up to our residential neighborhood. We've got good security for fencing on the slopes that we have back there. You can see the electrical conduits going in the ground, and our huge mountain of topsoil that we have on the site that's going to be shortly spread out, I hope, when the weather breaks and we start getting dry enough to do a little bit more grading work again. A large project that we just finished up on, this was completed back in November when I reported last time. We were right there at it. Chief Edwards is loving the site, making good use of it for now. This land was donated by Tenova Healthcare, so it was a great asset for us to be able to use that, partner with that, let EMS facilities come in after they go to the hospital, have a transaction right there nearby. We have approximately 9,000 square foot of vehicle bay and storage for the logistics, and approximately a little over 6,600 square feet of office space. So that gives them conference rooms, training rooms that they need, office space for their staff. It's a very nice facility. We're proud of it. I know EMS is proud of it. Freedonia Community Center, this will be our next project that we will be getting started on. We have gone with our contractor. We've signed contracts as of today. So we are ready to hold pre-construction meetings, get started on that with some of the hazardous material remediation, asbestos, lead paint. Some of that, Bi-County is going to work with us on the adjacent house that we have on that property to demo that after we've taken the hazardous materials out of there. So this is what the facility looks like now. It's pretty deplorable. We were going to make this as fresh and new and exciting as we can make it. Some of the interior images that we have now, some of this will be redone. You'll see some of the low ceiling heights, all that'll be raised up, completely renovated for us to be able to go in and use that for the purpose that the park departments have for that. Rotary Park Nature Center will be our next one after Freedonia. We are finalizing design. We're getting really close to that. Hopefully be wrapping that up pretty quickly so that we can go out to construction bids within the next, I'll say, about a month, give or take. We're really waiting on a grant to finalize and them tell us that we are good to move forward on that project, and then we will move forward. This is a side image of that facility and where it will be housed. A portion of the wood line will be taken out to nestle in this new facility. The parking lot that will be renovated and paved to improve that parking lot. We're actually gonna, where you see the grass area in the forefront, we're gonna put sidewalks that connect, because I'll show you some images later on. We want to be able to have school bus circulation at the top of the hill in the parking lot to be able to have kids easily transported to this nature center for their use. And for some of the newer commissioners, this is not a new project, but I wanted to kind of translate and update a little bit on this for those who have not been to Rotary Park. As of almost a year ago, we completed the infrastructure project for this entire park, where we came in and widened the roads, made them where you don't get scared going up next to somebody when you're driving. It desperately needed that. We needed a lot of drainage improvements, and we needed some stormwater and potable drinking water improvements on the infrastructure. So we improved street lines, ditch lines. This is the parking lot at the top of the hill. You can kind of see off in the far left of the image. That will be where the nature center will be housed. So it's right close to the larger parking lot, even though we will be adding a smaller parking lot for it as well. Public safety training complex, we've gone and started the master planning on the entire site. They've done a little bit of development on the emergency vehicle training track that you see off on the bottom side, and they have planned in where the range will be on that site. So moving forward, we're still working on master planning, and then we will go forward with the budget process for the range. And Sheriff may have more to add on that if there's any questions about this project. Just a few more of the ongoing projects that we don't really have a whole lot of detail images that we can show to you at this point. The ADA transition plan has been something that has taken up quite a bit of my staff's time and development. We have completed our facilities assessment and are moving toward finalizing our transition plan. We're now working with the highway department to evaluate and get a consultant to go out and physically put boots on the ground to do a lot of sidewalk inspections. So that will be upcoming and due by the end of the year for where they're going to be intersections, sidewalks, anything to do with the highway department. The public safety complex criminal warrants renovation, that's kind of a new project. There was a little bit of budget in that for this past year. We've evaluated that, gone in with some design, just far enough to know that we get a little bit of that project worked on, and we may have to come back and see what else we can do with some additional budget in other budget cycles. The Veteran Service Organization renovation design at Veterans Plaza, we've been a little bit holding on that project until the new director come on board. We'll make sure we get the proper guidance and that we're not backtracking on a lot of work. This is a vacant space currently right now. It's a little bit of additional space, square footage for them that they need, and the space that they're in now, we'll be able to reuse that and hand that off to another department for expansion and better use of that facility. Archives dehumidification, they've had a problem with that for a while. It's been addressed with floor dehumidifiers. It's not really a large project, but it's a complicated project because it's been an ongoing issue. We're working with a consulting firm to try to analyze and figure out what exactly it is that's going on in that space before we request budget for how to fix it. The historical courthouse water damage repair, Jennifer Hood with our risk management has done a good job of keeping up with the insurance company on this job. You've seen when you walked in, we've got a lot of it repaired. We are working on some improvements that it kind of forced the hand as this happened. It was a good time while employees were displaced to make improvements along the way, and we're doing that with the contractor that the insurance company has already got here. EMS Station 28, this is the one on Providence Boulevard right there at the Red River. We are re-roofing that station due to just deterioration of that existing roof. We're putting that together in a way where we don't have to take off the existing roof in order to keep facilities operational all the time. They have delivered their material to the site, and they will be putting that on as soon as the weather breaks, we hope. And last project we'll talk about is EMS Station 20. This is the Haynes Street. This is the old EMS admin facility. We are removing the generator and some of our data and components that go in that project and moving all that over appropriately to the EMS station that's adjacent to it so that we can kind of remove that facility from our grasp. That's a leased building, not really the county's. So we're taking the generator, making that appropriate so that the EMS station stays powered even in power outages. Are there any questions anybody has on any of these projects?
Any questions of Nick? Commissioner Pritchard.
Yes, I understand that at some of our other parks, they have issues with the stands where they sell the snacks and stuff being broken into. What kind of security are we going to have on the part that the first one you were talking about that's still in process now?
Okay, on the concession stand?
Yeah.
We put key code locks on those doors. They're commercial grade locks. I'm not exactly sure. Parks Director may need to ask a little bit or identify a little bit about what vandalism's gone on, but we're putting commercial grade hinges, locks, doors. All the windows should be locked tight. I mean, if somebody wants to get into something really hard, you know, it's hard to be completely vandal resistant, but we've got commercial grade quality, and that's our hope that will stand up. And the bigger deterrent is that we'll be putting in video surveillance more extensively through this phase, and I believe what they may have through the first phase of the project. So it'll help supplement what is already out there, and it kind of helps. We feel like a lot of the vandalism that has occurred even during construction to the contractor's equipment is coming through the woods, through the residential neighborhood, and we're going to be able to capture all that. It's not a complete deterrent, but it is going to help the Parks Department, I believe.
Any other questions of Mr. Powell? Commissioner Knight.
I just wanted to know, because I'm curious, is there any swing sets for disabled children for the wheelchairs?
Yes, sir. Pretty much the entire playground facility that has been designed is ADA compliant. All that was taken into account. From the ramps, you get elevated decks where they're not necessarily on the surface. The rubber surface that's going to be there for fall protection. We've got swings that are there for handicap-bound children. There's even merry-go-rounds that you can wheel a whole wheelchair into and have that spinning feature. So we've taken a lot of attention. We've got user group information so that the best playground that we could provide at that site for that space, we've tried to identify that and included that. I think everybody's going to be really pleased when they see what's going on with this park after we get done with that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Nick, thank you. Appreciate what y'all do. As y'all can see, a lot of activity going on in Montgomery County, all over the county. All right, on to our resolutions in our agenda. Our first resolution is Resolution 1911, resolution of the Montgomery County Board of Commissioners appropriating funds for architect design fees for a new middle school Kirkwood complex. Is there a motion for approval? Commissioner Keene, second. Commissioner Gannon, any discussion? Commissioner Gannon.
Thank you, Mayor Durrett. I just want to go over about few little points that we have, or that I have. First of all, we've been discussing the Kirkwood area. We've brought up our concerns of this for more than 5 years in the past, and yet here we sit and we still talk about that, and it's still coming along in the same direction.
We've talked about one. Why can't we build a standalone school? Maybe just not an elementary, but maybe a middle school and a high school together. That would open up so many more opportunities for land where we could put some places. The distance is a concern with Kenwood. There's going to be buses running up and down that road, and it's very close to the Kentucky border and on the outskirts of town. So we know that they're going to put extra distance on our school buses, which creates more traffic, which creates more hazards. It's been currently said on my third point that there is no health risk from the C&D landfill that's there. And that is true. However, you know and I know that over the last, in 5 years from now, or 10 years from now, or 15 years from now, on other things that we've seen, all of a sudden something creeps up and says, well, we didn't take this into effect, or this came in there. So now we potentially have some health concerns. Don't want to put our children through that possibility. The smell, before we did our redistricting, that entire area, Commissioner Garland's area and my area, were all one district. And when the dump began to smell, my phone would light up on a Christmas tree. And if you don't believe that, you can go over there. I think it's Hughes Landing that's across the street from there, and you can ask all the people in the subdivision. When the school gets built, or if this school gets built, there's going to be football games there. There's going to be baseball games. There's going to be outside activities, as well as the school standing there during the times. And the smell is going to come. And it's going to be there, whether they're in there learning their mathematics or whether they're in the football game. And I don't think we should subject our kids through that. My last point, and let's just wipe the slate clean, and let's say that everybody in here has to vote. Everybody in here has to vote on this question that I'm going to ask tonight. And you have to vote tonight right after this thing. If we were to take an existing school, and somebody wanted to build a construction and development landfill dump right next to the school, right next to the existing school, and you had to vote on whether to allow that landfill, that dump for C&D to be allowed, if you're going to vote yes to build it or no to build it, right next to an existing school, your vote's going to be no. I don't see how you could vote to put a landfill next to an existing school. And if you're going to vote no and not put a landfill next to an existing school, then how can you do the reverse? That's all I have.
Thank you,
Mayor.
Mr. Gannon. Mr. Harper?
Thank you, Mayor. Chris Fielder, I see you're here tonight. After we got the report last Monday or this week, I had some questions on the geotechnical part.
With all due respect, we're not getting into that debate, Mr. Harper. I don't think that's right. We had the opportunity the other night to ask questions.
With all due respect, Mayor, we did not have this report last Monday.
I will yield to the body, but this is our voting session. This is not a debate session. But if the body would like to allow Chris Fielder, I'm sorry, Chris, so I almost forgot your name, would like to allow him to come forward to answer questions, I'll yield to the body. So show me a show of hands who wants to let Mr. Fielder speak. I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Unfortunately, the body does not want to hear it. Mr. Harper, you still have the floor.
I'm done.
Okay. Commissioner Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Well, we've got a problem. We all know that. There's no surprise, there's no new information to anyone. And it's a problem of our own making. That's the issue. Do we need a new school? Absolutely. Do we need a new school quickly? Absolutely. Do we need to put a new school next to this landfill in this area? Absolutely not. You know, it's very easy to think that because a person or a group is good at something, that they're good at all things. And you just can't assume that just because we have been basically inundated with information about the school system for the past month, about the awards they've received and about the test scores, that you can't just automatically assume that they can't drop the ball. I do it. I don't think I know anyone who hasn't. Sometimes you just make a bad decision. Sometimes you just make a mistake. That's what this is. I see commissioners of this body vote monthly to deny zoning requests because the people who live around the area don't want it. Why should it be different because it's the school system? The people who live in the area don't want this. The people who live in the surrounding areas don't want this. This will affect the commuters coming in from Guthrie, from Allensville, from Russellville, from Trenton, Pembroke, Adams, and Springfield. It's not just a handful of people out there who say that this is a bad idea. And if you use that as your consideration a month ago, if you use that as your consideration 3 months ago, I would ask you please to use that as your consideration now. And the reason why I say that this is a problem of our own creation is because the school system came here and they gave us the information. It's the same information we've gotten before, that they've been tracking the growth since the mid-'80s. So that was no surprise. They've had this property for 12 years. So we knew it was there. We knew the issues with it. That is no surprise. And yet, they appeared here in January and said, this has to happen right now. Where was this in October? Where was this the October before? A lot of commissioners feel like we are pushed into a corner here and that we have nowhere to go. Well, honestly, that's not the case. At our land acquisition meeting, Commissioner Gannon asked the question about overfilling Rossview Middle and Northeast Middle in anticipation of this new school, and the school system said, yes, that is what has happened. There are more kids in these schools than there would be normally because they were banking on this new school coming. So when you see the numbers and you hear the stories, understand that had that procedure not been done by the school system, it wouldn't be in that condition. That's new. That's not a product of the growth. That is a product of their own machinations. There was a story in the newspaper about Eagle Bluff, where the Eagle Bluff subdivision was allowed to go to Northeast when they were not supposed to. If the school was that overcrowded, why would you add additional students? You see, you are not in the corner that you think you are in. It is not as dire as the picture is painted. Commissioners Gannon and Riccone offered a standalone school. It was denied flat out, even though that would cause for smaller land requirements and easier to find a location. If a no vote tonight does not mean that this is a disaster and everything just spirals out of control. A no vote tonight means that Commissioners Gannon and Riccone and I and the school system start to work tomorrow finding a new location. That's what that means. I've heard commissioners say, well, we bought this property, we have to do something with it. We've had it for 12 years, we didn't do anything with it. There are many more options of what can be done with this land besides put a school on it. It's not as if we're losing money by the day because the property is sitting there without a school on it. We were told of a YMCA coming to the property. Honestly, I just see that as shiny things and bells and whistles to distract you from what the real issue is. And honestly, if someone is spotted on a school campus, they either work there or they have a child there. But when you put a YMCA on there, now you've got the general public driving through. I can't see that as a positive. Maybe the people who proposed it think it is. Mr. Summerall said on last week, if you've ever been around any of their facilities at opening or closing, it's near gridlock. Imagine that on that highway. They told me when we asked at the land acquisition meeting that it would be approximately 40 buses that would service this school. Right now, there's 82 buses serving Northeast Middle and Northeast Middle and Elementary. There are plans to put 2 other schools on this property. The property is surrounded by railroad crossings on all sides. And Tennessee Code Annotated, state law 558147, says that all school buses must stop at all railroad crossings, whether they're full or empty. If there's 1 child or 50, if there's no children on the bus, it must stop. So imagine what the traffic is going to be like when they have to stop 40 buses in the morning going in with children, 40 buses leaving to go back home, 40 buses coming in empty in the afternoon, 40 buses going back out in the evening with children. And that's just for 40. Like I said, they are expanding to 3 schools on this property. So 40 buses is the low end. Skip, if you wouldn't mind. I prepared a little something just to give you an idea of what the traffic situation would be. And with the blessings of the mayor, and this is Arkadelphia Road, and that is the tiny little dead-end road. That is the only way you have to really get on the property now. This is the property that is adjacent to it that is about to be developed. And depending on whether the houses come first or the school comes first, there's going to have to be a road built there. There are $5 million in road money in this. It's not going to go very far. This is the entrance to the landfill. And yes, that sign right there says American Snuff. There is a tobacco factory right next door. You can see part of the smaller parts of the landfill there. This is the first railroad crossing. This is on Highway 79. And at the top of that hill, that is a blind hill, and the speed limit is 55. So when the buses all stop or make this turn to go to Webb Road, we talked about Webb Road, and I told you how treacherous the road is. You can just take a look at this. $5 million isn't going to go very far to straighten out this road. Now, as you watch this, I don't want you to consider this the vehicle that I'm driving. I want you to consider 40, 50, 60, 80 plus school buses driving on this road every day, twice a day. And this is the nice part. You will be coming up very shortly on the second railroad crossing in order to get onto Webb Road. Now keep in mind that you must cross another crossing to get onto the school property from this side. And that right there, you'll get another look at that here in just a second. But here's your second railroad crossing to put you on Webb Road, which is the road that parallels Highway 79 to get you out to the property. This road is windy, it is hilly, it has some extremely tight curves on it, as you will see right here. And imagining tens of school buses navigating this road on a daily basis does not appeal to me at all. Hopefully, it will not appeal to you. And if anyone can see, well, now this is where you start to see part of the landfill buildings, the bi-county buildings that are attached to the property. And here in just a second, you'll be able to see the railroad tracks and a little bit more of the landfill. That's just a small part. The rest of it is over the hill. And keep in mind that the $5 million that you're getting in road projects, you're not going to be able to touch Highway 79. You can't do anything with it at all. There's nothing that you can do to make it more adaptable to handling the traffic so that you won't have to use Webb Road. The neighborhood that you see ahead of you, I couldn't find anyone in the neighborhood that was interested in even entertaining thoughts as to why a school should be in the area. Everyone that I spoke to said that they would love to have a school in the area. I would love to have a school in the area, but no one wants a school on that property. It is a danger that we just cannot afford to gamble. As we go just a bit farther here, we will come to the end of Webb Road where it merges with Port Royal Road. Now, just a few miles, if you make this left, just a few miles down the road, is where you will come to the 4th railroad crossing, which basically surrounds this property there. It's boxed in on all sides. And there, next to that crossing, is the beginning of a project. And if you would take out your phones or your tablet and type in TVA Guthrie Project, what you will find is a plan to run high voltage power lines along the railroad tracks. The map that you're getting right now, the red line that you see highlighted there, that is the official map from TVA showing where these power lines are going to go. They're going to run right through that property. The railroad tracks run through the property, and this project runs right along the railroad tracks. So now you have a tobacco factory and high voltage power lines. You may even be able to hear the hum of the electricity from the football field. Now, getting on to the smell and the landfill, and I promise I'm almost done. Under the direction of our previous bi-county director, Mr. Reed, there were several problems and violations that went with this landfill. Most notably ones were involving runoff, where you had liquids that were leaving the site that got into areas where they shouldn't have. Thank you. I talked to Nick Long from the Tennessee Department of Environment and Conservation, and he oversees the violations and permits for landfills in this area. And his exact words were, putting a school there is a terrible idea, and why would anyone want to do it? This is the Tennessee Department of Environment and Conservation. This is not Garland Johnson. And his words were, why would anyone want to do that? You will see there the violation letter that was received by Mr. Reed about the runoff problems. And allow me to say this now. Director Graham that we have that is over by county is a professional. He does an amazing job. He is very good at what he does. He answers questions. He gets on problems as fast as humanly possible, and I have nothing negative to say about him. But accidents happen. Things go wrong. You're dealing with the wind and the rain and the soil, and you're dealing with contractors who maybe don't want to drive all the way out to the other landfill to get rid of something that shouldn't go into this landfill. That's just human nature, people. It happens. And saying that, you will also see that in February of 2018, we had above permissible levels of vinyl chloride at this landfill. Vinyl chloride causes cancer. It is a known carcinogen. You also had above allowable levels of benzene. Benzene causes leukemia. That was at this landfill. That was February 2018. We went through all kinds of machinations trying to fix the smell out there. Director Reed and I, we talked, and we had vents installed in order to vent the air higher so it would go farther and dissipate. That didn't work. We put aroma sprayers with an almond scent to try to mask the smell. That didn't work. We went to burners to try to burn the smell and the chemicals as they came out of the ground. That didn't work. Now that seems like a lot of time, energy, and money to go into trying to get rid of something that doesn't exist. I talked to Mr. Long at TDEC, and he said that sheetrock, the gypsum in the sheetrock, breaks down, and that is what causes the smell. However, under the right conditions, the gypsum with the moisture and the right temperature can create hydrogen sulfide gas. It has a smell of rotten eggs, it is invisible, and it is poisonous. And that is why you see a lot of landfill workers at C&D landfills who wear monitors on their suit, because you get used to the smell, and before you know it, someone has to go and retrieve you. I don't know if this information was not known or if it was just not shared. But I do know that we have a responsibility to respect, we have a responsibility to protect every single citizen of Montgomery County. We are not just here to ensure education of the children. If that is your main focus, you're in the wrong place. You should be on the school board. That is a very noble pursuit, but we have to look out for everyone. And I don't think that putting children in danger for the sake of an education is a good idea. Commissioner Riccone, Commissioner Gannon, and myself are more than willing to start tomorrow finding another location. This one is a bad idea. I ask you, just think you may be on this commission for 40 years and never have a resolution come through that will make you proud, something that you voted for and your name carries on for generations. You know, if you're here for recognition, if you're here to get reelected, you're in the wrong place anyway. And this vote is not one of those votes, because if you vote no, tomorrow is business as usual. You may get your name in the paper for voting against it, and this may come up again when the next property is found, but it's not going to make you famous. But I guarantee you, if you vote yes on this, and we put this school in this location, we will be remembered forever as the commission that put children in danger. We will be known as the people who knew better, but did it anyway. I'm sorry it took so long. Thank you.
Commissioner Woodruff.
Thank you, Mayor. Let me just say that I want to get to the geographical facts and how they are related, associated with this particular site. The Land Acquisition Ad Hoc Committee found this property years ago. They thought it was okay. The school board think that it's okay. The Regional Planning Commission think that this site is okay. The landfill superintendent said there's no issues with this particular site. This is the best location out of all of the sites that was surveyed, more than 7 or 8. This is the best of all of them. And to go out and look for another site in the latest school board for another month or two is unnecessary. The environmental assessment that was conducted, phase 1, it states in that environmental assessment on page, I think it's page 24, based on the site inspection and available information from DBS and Associates Engineering Incorporated, concludes that there are no recognizable environmental conditions associated with the subject site. That's enough. If all of the other people that was interested in telling us what's the negativeness of this particular site had came to the commission and told us that, or it's in this environmental report, I can understand that, but it was not there. From the Resource Conservation Recovery Act to RCRA, Circular, Comprehensive Environmental Social Act, Solid Waste Management, Groundwater, PCBs, air quality, water quality, groundwater, none of them, all of those are in this environmental assessment study, and found nothing. That's from 2 states, Tennessee and Kentucky, and the Federal Environmental Association. All of those reports, none of them have showed anything negative to this particular site. Every landfill in the country is going to have some type of violations. You're not going to get around it. Did that make it bad? If this site is such a bad location, why did we approve houses to be built there? You're telling me that the house is going to be built there anyway, that those kids are going to be subject to the smell, the environment, and they can't go to this school? Then we shouldn't allow them to be built there. If we have bus drivers that are not professional, and I know that they are, then they wouldn't be driving the bus. They understand that you have to stop at every railroad track, whether you're loaded or unloaded. Just about every school in the county are on a single road or 2-lane road, and they make do with what we have to work with. I think the school board has did a fantastic job in what they have done to present to us a case that this commission has to decide if we want it. And at this point, I was leaning on the fence, but I think this is the best site, and I think it's need to be approved, and we need to approve it.
Commissioner King.
Thank you, Mayor. The school system has owned this property since 2008. We've known about all the talk about what's out there. It's just like Commissioner Woodruff said, we know houses are going to be built out in that area. If any of these commissioners have constituents that have children at Rossview and Northeast, they want a school and they want it now. I will be voting for this, and I would encourage my fellow commissioners to vote for it. Thank you.
Commissioner Knight.
Thank you, Mayor. I heard Commissioner Keene speak about constituents, and everybody knows I base my opinion, or my vote, as a matter of fact, not from my opinion, but from community input. And I conduct polls and, talk to individuals and have them call me and, send emails back and forth. And in one of these polls I did, it was a 90% against building this school. Right? So here are constituents communicating with an individual from this body stating that they're not for it. Right? 2, we have approximately 2,700 students that need to be housed in a particular school, right, in that area. Yet the school to be built has a capacity of what? 1,500? What are we going to do with the other 1,200? How long is it going to be before this particular school comes to capacity to begin with? So just want everybody here to keep that in mind.
Commissioner Harper, I'm going to come to you. You had a chance to speak. I'm going to go to Commissioner Pritchard.
In rebuttal to Commissioner Johnson's information that we had, and I'm going to quote a technical paper here from the University of Florida in Gainesville, and it's the Department of Environmental Engineering Sciences, and this is going to be very quick. But hydrogen sulfide, which is a breakdown result of gypsum, can be mitigated. The pH values are mitigated by wood, which based on the results, 2 possible control mechanisms mitigate hydrogen sulfide generation in construction and debris landfills, construction and demolition landfills. So that hydrogen sulfide that's emitted is mitigated by wood, and it lowers the pH level as well as concrete. So the odor that smells like rotten eggs, which is what hydrogen sulfide is then the pH levels of it and the parts per million in the air eventually becomes almost non-existent by the other debris that's brought into that landfill. So you may have an odor in the beginning. Now, my other question really quickly is the fact that since you knew for a long time that we had this property and that you felt that this property was not property that you felt was sufficient for a school, then why hasn't anyone done any research to find any other additional properties without having to go through any other channels, but just in general to provide a comparable solution to this issue? Thanks.
Commissioner Harper.
Thank you, Mayor. Let's try this again. I'm going to read a paragraph from our report from the geotech information on the middle school. Before I read this, let me let you know that in each of the school locations, they did 18 borings into those schools to check the condition of the soil. So I'm going to read you a paragraph from the report. The presence of lower strength soils and very soft and soft soils at borings M2, M3, M4, M8, M9, M12, M13, M14, M17, and 18, okay? That's 10 of the 18 borings. May indicate the presence of one or more pockets of weak or otherwise unsuitable soil in other areas of the proposed project. These and other areas may contain soft, unsuitable soils which may require undercutting and replacement for successful site development. In general, the need for undercutting activities is reduced if site grading is performed during the dry season. In our area, when does that happen? Likewise, more undercutting can be expected as grading is performed during periods of wet weather, typically November through May. The conditions of the site soils can be better evaluated via proof rolling techniques after stripping and cutting to the desired subgrade level. Proof rolling is discussed in more detail in the following grading section of this report. Recent history. The school we built at Oakland Elementary, there was basically need for undercutting before that school could be built. That was an additional $300,000 to the cost of that project. In my opinion, based on the geotechnical report, I'm not an expert, but what I read scares me a lot about this site. I would encourage everyone, I hope you have read the report. I have, and that's why I asked for it, and I'd encourage you to vote no. Thank you.
Commissioner Johnson.
Just in response, excuse me, just in response to Commissioner Woodruff, if you read the report, you will see on page 5, 1, subsection 1.3, limitations and exceptions. This assessment did not include subsurface investigation, chemical analysis of air, soil, source material, surface water, and/or groundwater samples collected on site, evaluation of analytical and hydrological data, collection and testing of building samples or for hazardous materials, i.e. asbestos, lead-based paint, or polychlorinated biphenyls, identification of endangered or protected plant or animal species, historic or archaeological sites, wetland determination. It goes on and on and on. These are things that are not covered in the report that you are saying speaks in favor of this. In response to Commissioner Pritchard, if the Department of Environment and Conservation in Tennessee tells me it's a bad idea, I'm sorry, but I'm not going to listen to someone who's hundreds of miles away tell me it's a good idea. It was spoken that the Land Acquisition Committee voted in favor of this. As I said last week, the Land Acquisition Committee voted in favor of purchase of this 12 years ago. The information that we have now is not the information we had then. You know things now that you did not know 12 years ago. You know things now you didn't know yesterday. And those things determine your decisions today and tomorrow. We cannot go on, well, it was fine 12 years ago, it's going to be fine 5 years from now. I ask you, please, for common sense. Thank you.
Commissioner Woodruff?
Thank you, Mayor. Commissioner, we can't speculate on what may happen 20 years from now.
Well, I can speculate that we're not going to get in a back and forth debate
Right.
on all these questions. I think everybody that's wanted to state their opinion has stated their opinion. Go ahead, Commissioner Woodruff.
I'll just say that this is a demolition landfill. And on a Class 3 landfill, all of the inspections, all of the sampling, leachate that leaks out is not required for this particular landfill. This is rock, concrete, asphalt, dirt, and some gypsum. There may be a small amount of asbestos that is covered every 7 to 14 days. So again, that's the last thing I got to say, and I recommend approval.
Commissioner Gannon?
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to follow up on what Commissioner Johnson said, that the land was voted on and approved, if you will, 12 years ago, under a director that was 2 directors ago from the Regional Planning Commission. In our land acquisition meeting that we had a month ago or a couple of weeks ago, we were talking about maybe finding another site and looking for it, or maybe breaking it down to standalones or whatever. Current director Tyndall was there, and he thought that we could find a better site than 4.5 miles from the city line. So when we're talking about the Regional Planning Commission, that's the way it was 12 years ago. Current Planning Commission thinks there probably could be a better site, if my understanding of what Director Tyndall said at our meeting.
All right, I see no one else to speak. We have a motion and a second for approval of Resolution 1911. If you would, please register your vote. Would anyone like to change their vote? Ms. Jackson, would you please tally the vote?
You have 7 yeses, 14 noes, and 0 abstentions.
Thank you, ma'am. Resolution 1921 is a resolution to accept the donation from the Clarksville Rotary Clubs to help construct Phase 2 at Civitan Park. Is there a motion for approval? Commissioner Albert, second Commissioner Harper. Any discussion? If you would, please register your vote. Would anyone like to change their vote? Ms. Jackson, would you please tally the vote?
You have 21 yeses, 0 noes, 0 abstentions.
Thank you. Resolution 1922, a resolution to accept federal grant funds from the Bureau of Justice Assistance State Criminal Alien Assistance Program. Is there a motion for approval? Commissioner Riccone, second Commissioner Arnold Hodges. Any discussion? If you would, please register your vote. Would anyone like to change their vote? Ms. Jackson, would you please tally the vote?
You have 21 yeses, 0 noes, 0 abstentions.
Thank you, ma'am. 1923, resolution to appropriate funds from the Sheriff's Office Defense Reutilization and Marketing Office Reserve Fund. Is there a motion for approval? Commissioner Beal, second Commissioner Butts. Any discussion? If you would, please register your vote. Would anyone like to change their vote? Ms. Jackson, would you please tally the vote?
You have 21 yeses, 0 noes, 0 abstentions.
Thank you. 1924, a resolution to amend the budget of the Montgomery County Election Commission for an additional primary and special election for the vacated District 22 State Senate seat. Is there a motion for approval? Commissioner Ray, second Commissioner Creek. Any discussion? Commissioner Butts.
Thank you, Mayor. Last week we talked, the state's going to reimburse the county for this?
That's correct.
And it's going to cost us?
I don't know.
We estimated?
Estimated $238,000.
And it's full reimbursement?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Any other questions? If you would, please register your vote. Commissioner King, there you go. Would anyone like to change their vote? Ms. Jackson, would you please tally the vote?
You have 21 yeses, 0 nos, 0 abstentions.
Resolution 1925, resolution appointing Andrew Stephen Kester as Director of the Montgomery County Veterans Service Organization. Is there a motion for approval? Commissioner Harper, second. Commissioner Chandler, any discussion? If you would, please register your vote. Would anyone like to change their vote? Ms. Jackson, would you please tally the vote?
You have 21 yeses, 0 nos, 0 abstentions.
Thank you, ma'am. Commissioners, without objection, I'm going to allow Mr. Kester to come up to the podium and say a few words to you.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Commissioners. I was kind of prepared to talk before the vote in case there was any questions. Since none of you know me, just a quick brief history about myself. I've been a Montgomery County resident for 11 years. The Army brought me here in 2008. I retired in 2010, and my wife and family, we decided to call Clarksville our home. When I retired out of the Army, I kind of decided I want to go back to school. I used the Montgomery GI Bill, went back to school, went to Western Kentucky University, got my doctorate in education, used education as my platform to encourage veterans. While I was a doctoral student there, the search committee there at Western offered me a adjunct position teaching online leadership studies for graduate program for active duty soldiers around the world. Fort Knox wanted to build a program. So for the last 5 years, I've been teaching leadership studies to active duty soldiers online. For the last 4 years, I've had the opportunity to be a Tennessee Promise mentor, and I've used that platform for Fort Campbell school districts to talk to the high school seniors. Most of them are first-generation college students. But I chose Fort Campbell versus Rossview, where my children go, was because I can use that not only to talk to the high school seniors, but to talk to the active duty mom and dad. Get to talk to them as they're close to retirement, to talk to them about the benefits, about the education, and about my story, what I went through when I separated from the Army and retired after 20 years. For the last 3 years, I've got to work for QTC Medical here in Clarksville. If you're not familiar with it, it's a VA contracted medical service that provides VA physicals for service member recuperating disability benefits. So you kind of see a theme there. For a long time, I've done a lot of part-time work with veterans. I'm looking forward to, and I appreciate your consideration, looking forward to full-time benefits and working with the Veteran Service Organization here in Montgomery County. One thing, if you haven't realized about me, I don't have a social media presence. Mayor, if that's something required of the job, I'll ask my 72-year-old mother to help me build an account. But until then, I like lemonade, sweet tea, Lassiter coffee, and Golly G's ice cream. If you want to get to know me, got something to talk about, invite me to one of those places, and we'll talk face to face. Thank you.
Thanks, Andrew. All right, Resolution 1926 is a resolution to retain a delinquent tax attorney for tax year 2017. Is there a motion for approval? Commissioner Lewis, second. Commissioner Keene, any discussion? If you would, please register your vote. Would anyone like to change their vote? Ms. Jackson, would you please tally the vote?
You have 21 yeses, 0 nos, 0 abstentions.
Thank you. Resolution 1927, a resolution to enter into a contract with the Barrett Group to identify funds uncollected. Is there a motion for approval? Commissioner Creek, second. Commissioner Ray, Commissioner Harper.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a quick question. The delinquent tax attorney is a 10% remittal, I believe, and this one is 50%. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Is that customary for that practice?
I think it's something like this, it would be. I think they're two different things. The delinquent tax attorney knows that somebody has not paid their taxes. In this particular instance, there's possibly revenue for Montgomery County that's out there that we don't know about.
Good enough. Thank you.
Commissioner Beal?
Thank you. Did we get any bids from any other companies to see if we can get a lower fee?
No, sir. I think it's considered a professional service, and to be honest, I don't know of another company that does it.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? If you would, please register your vote. Would anyone like to change their vote? Ms. Jackson, would you please tally the vote?
You have 21 yeses, 0 noes, 0 abstentions.
Thank you, ma'am. No unfinished or new business. Ms. Jackson, would you like to read your report? And this will require approval by the commission.
Comes Kelly A. Jackson, County Clerk, Montgomery County, Tennessee, and presents the County Clerk's report for the month of January 2019. I hereby request that the persons named on the list of new applicants to the office of Notary Public be elected. The oaths of the deputy county officials and sheriff's deputies are approved as taken. This report shall be spread upon the minutes of the Board of County Commissioners. You do not have any names that need to be read into the minutes for bond purposes, and you received your list of notary applications last week and do not have any that are signed by a personal surety.
Is there a motion for approval? Commissioner Creek, second. Commissioner Rasnick, any discussion? If you would, please register your vote. Would anyone like to change their vote? Ms. Jackson, would you please tally the vote?
You have 21 yeses, 0 noes, 0 abstentions.
Thank you, ma'am. Commissioners, you'll see under your reports filed, the new ones since our informal are in bold. I think Ms. Wiggins will be giving us a report next month from her office on the county trustee. Under county mayor nominations, as to read into the record, Judicial Commissioner Robert Peterson, part-time position, nominated to serve another one-year term to expire February 2020. And the Animal Care and Control Ad Hoc Committee, Dave Caskey, Charles C. Hand, Tracy Hogan, Brandy King, Commissioner Garland Johnson, Commissioner Brandon Butts. The next two will require commission approval, and without objection, we will do them both under one motion. The county coroner, 2-year term, Jimmy Edwards, nominated to serve another 2-year term to expire February 2021. Public Safety Training Complex Committee, Chairman of the EMS Committee, Commissioner Keene, appointed to serve a 1-year term to expire February 2020. Chairman of the Jail and Juvenile Committee, Commissioner Leverett, appointed to serve a 1-year term expiring February 2020. Chairman of the Fire Protection Committee, Commissioner Harper, appointed to serve a 1-year term to expire February 2020. Commissioner Larry Riccone, appointed to serve a 2-year term to expire February 2021. And serving as ex officio members are the Montgomery County Sheriff, the Montgomery County Emergency Service Director, and Montgomery County Fire Service Director. And these terms are concurrent with their term in office. So is there a motion for approval for the county coroner and the Public Safety Training Complex Committee? Commissioner Bill, second. Commissioner Joe Smith, any discussion? If you would, please register your vote. Would anyone like to change their vote? Ms. Jackson, would you please tally the vote?
You have 18 yeses, 0 noes, and 3 abstentions.
Oh, okay. Thank you. I made myself a note. Commissioners, I just have one announcement. As most of you know, tonight, to my left is one guy going out and another guy that's coming in. And I just want to say to Jeff, buddy, it's been a good ride. I've known Jeff 20 plus years. We've had some very interesting times together. I won't go into those times. We've done a lot of things together. We've agreed on a lot of things, and we've disagreed on a lot of things. But we've always remained friends, and we always will remain friends. And so to him, I know where he's going. He will make a positive change to this community. I'm thankful I get to continue to work with him. We will definitely miss him, but we're going to welcome Kyle with open arms. So, Jeff, to you, my friend, Godspeed. I want to give you a hug.
said, do you want to say anything? I think y'all know better than that. But really, all I want to say is thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. What an amazing chapter in my life. Thank you so much. But really, thank you, employees, department heads. Wow. You guys are in great hands, but thank the department heads and thank the employees. I appreciate all you do for Montgomery County. You've taught me a lot. Thank you.
And one of those great staff members just told me we never voted on the nominations and appointments, so if you would, please register your vote. I'm sorry. I thought we did too. It was 18-3. I remember who it was because Jerry Albert and 2 other people abstained.
You were voting on the appointments of the coroner and the public safety training complex.
Yeah, those were the only 2 we had to vote on, but that's okay. Let's vote again. If you would, for old time's sake, as Tim said. If you would, please re-register your vote.
Is this, Mayor, for clarification, we're voting on the judicial commissioner position for the nominations, is that correct? So
yes, ma'am, we are voting on the county mayor appointments, county coroner and public safety training complex committee.
So you're adding those in with the other 2?
Yes, those are the only 2 that require commission approval.
The nomination.
Oh, okay, well, yeah, let's just vote on all of it. Let's just vote on all of it. That way we'll be sure. Mr. Lewis, would you like to vote? Miss Bryant?
The 2 judicial commissioners, you didn't announce those.
I read the one, yeah, but I just got them mixed up. I mean, it's been a stressful night for me. I apologize. Ms. Jackson, would you please tally the vote on what we just voted on? Which is all of them that need to be voted on.
Okay, so we're using the same motion and second that we already had and just
yes, ma'am. I think without objection from the floor will accept the judicial commissioner, which requires to be voted on, and also the county coroner and the public safety training complex committee.
Thank you very much. You still have 18 yeses, 0 noes, and 3 abstentions.
Thank you, ma'am. Sheriff, would you adjourn us?
All rise. Oh, yes, this Honorable Board of County Commissioners now stands adjourned. Now may God save this state and this Honorable Board of County Commissioners.